This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, Rabbi. We begin. I just want to speak at a few halachos for Rosh Hashanah regarding Shehechiyanu. Number one, Rosh Hashanah writes in Mincha Shlomo like this. He says, you make Kiddush the night of Rosh Hashanah, and you're making a Shehechiyanu. So some people may think, well, I have a new fruit also. So I'll kill two birds with one stone, make the Kiddush, make the Shehechiyanu, and have in mind in the Kiddush that the Shehechiyanu of the Kiddush, which is going on the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah, should also go on the new fruit. So Rosh Hashanah says this is incorrect. It's not proper. Why? Normally we say it's better not to make extra brachas. Normally we say, don't make extraneous brachas. Says Rosh Hashanah, these two reasons to make Shehechiyanu are two completely different reasons. One is on the Yom Tov, one is for the new fruit, and therefore you should not, you're allowed, in other words, if you would include both of them together, it would be effective. If you would specifically have in mind that the Shehechiyanu, the Kiddush, should go on the new fruit, then it would be effective and it would go on the new fruit as well. However, since it's for an entirely different reason, it's better to make two separate brachas. You should make a Shehechiyanu in the Kiddush, and then when you get up to the new fruit, if it is a new fruit for you, if it is a new season, if you haven't had it the whole year, then you make another Shehechiyanu on the new fruit. However, when it comes to the second day,
does that apply for the second day too?
So let's say, what about on the second day? Now on the second day, the question is, we know that on every Yom Tov you make a Shehechiyanu on the second day of Yom Tov. Why do you make a Shehechiyanu on the second day of Yom Tov? It's fake of the Yayama, because perhaps the second day is really the first day of Yom Tov. However, there's a concept that Rosh Hashanah is what we call Yayama Arifta. Okay. Now the Torah says that this is a very this is a concept people make a mistake about. When we say Yayama Arifta, it's not one day. It's 2 days. When you wake up in the morning, you make Birchas HaShachar again. You make Birchas HaTorah again. It's a second day. The concept of Yayama Arifta is it's one Kedusha. It's one Kedusha. That being said, the Torah says, Halacha L'maisa, there is no suffix in the world that you need to make a Shehechiyanu on the second day of Yom Tov. It's not even a doubt. You definitely make Shehechiyanu on the second day of Yom Tov. And therefore, if you have no new fruit on the second day of Yom Tov, do you make a Shehechiyanu in Kiddush? You do make a Shehechiyanu in Kiddush. Because it's not a suffix. It's not, there's no tzad in halacha to say you don't make a Shehechiyanu. Because I'll read to you the Lashon of the Torah. The Torah writes, what?
We know for sure when Rosh Hashanah is. We know for sure when Pesach is.
Okay, but that's because we're samech. Minag Aviseinu b'yadeinu. Minag Aviseinu b'yadeinu. So the Torah says like this. I'll read to you the Lashon of the Torah. Ani omer shetzarach lomer zman. I hold you have to make a Shehechiyanu on the second night. V'chein noyagin b'mkoimenu. This is our custom. U'v'chol ha'makoim she'avarti. This is the custom of anywhere I've been. Ve'ein chiluk ben Yom Tov shel Rosh Hashanah l'shar Yom Tov shel Golias. There is no distinction between Rosh Hashanah and any other Yom Tov. There's only one difference. You know what the difference is? Be'ah shenoda b'Yom Tov Rishon. The only difference is with the egg, where the Mishnah Be'ah says that if an egg is hatched on one day, so you have certain halachos for the second day. Those halachos are not applicable when it comes to the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. But when it comes to Zman, when it comes to Shehechiyanu, you definitely make a Shehechiyanu, says the Torah. But Taima Misham, Daf Zman Bezdin, Pamim Hayoisim, Beis Yomim. Even when Bezdin was around, they made 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Often. Even though there was no suffix. Which day was the Ikar Rosh Hashanah when there was a Bezdin? The second day. That if the Eidim wouldn't come the first day, they completed the first day, so that next year you should not be mezalzel in that day, and then they made the second day. But Le'inyan Zman, says the Torah, Mimanav Shach. If it's a suffix, Sveika D'Yayma, of course you have to make a Shehechiyanu. And if you're relying on the minhag, so the minhag was, both days were Kadosh. V'chein halacha. But my father, the Rosh, said that it's toiv, it's nice to take a new fruit and put it in front of you and make a Shehechiyanu and have in mind that it's going on the new fruit also, just in case, in deference to the other opinion that we don't hold like, that maybe there's some element of doubt regarding the Shehechiyanu. Okay?
So you don't make the Shehechiyanu when you eat the fruit?
Not if you made it. No, right. Not the second night. No.
Now,
Now, Rabbi say, listen carefully.
I don't see any.
Says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, listen carefully. What did the Torah just say? Should you, me'ikar hadin, let's say you don't have a new fruit. Should you make a Shehechiyanu the second night?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so now that you have a new fruit, what should your kavanah be when you make Kiddush the second night? Says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, you should not be thinking that I'm making a Shehechiyanu on the fruit. Because you know why? If you have that in mind, you might not be Yotzei Kiddush.
that's not what Torah just said, because his father said.
No, listen carefully. Listen listen carefully. You should also have in mind it. But some people, they think that the Shehechiyanu on the second night Kiddush is only going on the new fruit. Now, if you have that in mind, says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, you're being mafsik in between the Kiddush and the drinking the wine. What are you being mafsik with? An irrelevant Shehechiyanu. You ever hear, imagine on Pesach, in the middle of Shehechiyanu, in the middle of Kiddush, a guy would make a Shehechiyanu on a new fruit? Right? Imagine if in the middle of Asher Yatzar, I have a new fruit, let me make a Shehechiyanu in the middle of my Asher Yatzar. What are you making Shehechiyanu in the middle of a bracha for? So if you're going to have in mind the second night that your Shehechiyanu is only going on the new fruit, you're being mafsik in the middle of Kiddush. So what should you have in mind? You should have in mind that it's going on the Yom Tiv. But just in case, because there's some small element of doubt, you should also have in mind the new fruit.
Why do you even make Kiddush the second night? If it's Yayama Arifta, it's one long day. You make
No,
Kiddush.
it's not one long day. It's Yayama Arifta. It's one long kedusha,
Son said
but it's still another day. It's still another day.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
The 2 days Pesach.
yeah.
The 2 days Sukkot. We make a Shehechiyanu on both days.
On the Yom Tov.
On the Yom Tov. So why would Rosh Hashanah be different?
Oh, because there's a concept of Yayama, right, kedusha achas that has one long
So the second day of
kedusha.
Sukkot has a different kedusha?
No. The second day of Sukkot, we keep it as if it would be the only day. In other words, we're not sure which day is Sukkot. The first day or the second day. So the first day we say today's Sukkot. The second day we say, it wasn't yesterday, it was today.
Why make a Shehechiyanu the second night?
What?
If it's the only day, if it's a Yayama Arifta in the sense that it's one long day,
Right.
why do we make a Shehechiyanu the second
No, it's not one long day, one long kedusha.
So Rosh Hashanah is one long Kedusha.
No,
So
right. That's what
that's
we're talking about.
Okay, now my question is this. What about your wife? She makes a Shehechiyanu on candles. And she has in mind that
The Yom
it's
Tov.
the Yom Tov, and also, you see, most people
What's the question?
were taught and brought up that you have in mind the fruit. And
That's because most people were brought up incorrectly. But now you're coming to the Shiur. No. You weren't paying attention. Again, if someone's was saying one should not have in mind the Shehechiyanu is only going on the new fruit. You should have in mind that the Shehechiyanu is going on the Yom Tov. And as an adjunct, as a secondary, as a tafel, not as an ikar.
So the woman does the same thing when she makes her Shehechiyanu?
No, when the woman makes Shehechiyanu on her what?
Lighting candles.
Should she have in mind it's going on the new
She's going to eat
fruit?
a new fruit. What should she do?
Again, she does not have to have in mind. You don't need a new fruit. You don't need a new fruit. You can have in mind the Yom Tov straight up.
Just making the Ikar Shehechiyanu
Yes.
second day is the Yom.
The Yom, like the Torah says.
Something.
Yeah, so that's what we're saying. The
That's what
first
attracts you
day,
to come here, you learn things you have never heard before.
that's
But the majority, 7/8 of the people.
But if you get 7/8
Rabbi say again. Let's just
Say 7/8
one second.
people-
This is
people are wrong.
Now it's from people, not
Why?
7/8.
87.5%.
Sukkot we make some once we make Leisha Basika, then we make a Shehechiyanu.
one second.
Second day, the other way around.
Let's get to what we said clear. The first night, you have in mind only the Yom, and you don't bring out the new fruit during Kiddush the first day. The second day, the Shehechiyanu is primarily going on the Yom Tov. The new fruit is just,
Secondary.
just to make everything smooth. It's just to cover all your bases.
The other opinion.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.